Hi, everybody. Welcome to the program. When most of us think of art, we probably picture the Mona Lisa or one of the paintings by Picasso. But here in front of the Ramada Hotel in New York City is a sculpture called the Lover's Bench. As you can see, it's rather sexually explicit. The couple on your left engaged in a passionate embrace, while a third nude figure stares off into the distance. Now, this piece is also a good example of the controversy raging in this country over what is art and what is smut. Now, this is another example of what is art to some, smut to others. It's a segment of a performance piece called Love, Spit, Love. Now, other forms this controversial art takes is in paintings and in photographs, some of which now adorn our studio walls. Now, we'll be hearing from the artists in many of these, for many of these works, who will defend their work against those who feel that it is nothing but smut and schlock and should be banned. Okay, censorship on the one hand and pornographic extremism on the other have threatened art almost since pen was put to paper and paint to canvas. Take a look right now at some notorious recent examples. On December 9th, 1988, the photographer Robert Mapplethorpe opened one of the most controversial exhibits in American history. The issue was Mapplethorpe's photography art or smut? Well, today, more than a year after the exhibit, a passionate debate still rages over what constitutes artistic freedom of expression.
I'm slightly nauseous.
You're also a Nazi lady. You're welcome.
You don't have to
matter
go
whether we
backhand.
sweet it out. There are only 4 or 5 trample on the Constitution with your jackboot.
The battle is being fought from living rooms to libraries, from classrooms to Congress. At stake is finding a balance between First Amendment rights and the right of any community to ban pornography. Artistic curriculum and millions of dollars in grants from the National Endowment for the Arts add a financial component to this debate. Pro-censorship groups have already succeeded in altering the scripts of television shows, changing the film rating system, and forcing record label warnings. Some fear even book burning may not be far off. Artists who fear both the spiritual and the financial loss are fighting back. As in all wars, this conflict makes for strange bedfellows. In times of censorship, artists realize that anyone could be a target. History bears this out. Among the artists whose works have been banned, Ulysses by James Joyce, Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, The Beatles, Cat Stevens, Jesus Christ Superstar, O Calcutta, the photographer Jock Sturgis, comedian Lenny Bruce, Andrew Dice Clay, Sam Kinison, Two Live Crew, Demi Moore's cover on Vanity Fair, the film New Jack City, Guns N' Roses. It's been said that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and nowhere is that more true than in my studio today. Let's meet these artists now, and we'll also meet those who feel their work is nothing but smut. This is Gigi Allin. Gigi is a rock and roller who makes the most wild punk groups pale in comparison. I don't know if you'll recall this, but he made the news recently, Gigi did, when it was revealed that he relieved himself on stage, live. Why, Gigi, did you feel a need to defecate in front of a live audience?
Well, my body is the rock and roll temple, and my flesh, blood, and body fluids are a communion to the people, whether they like it or not. I mean, I'm not out to please anybody. My rock and roll is more not to entertain, but to annihilate. And you know,
who is it that you would like to annihilate?
I hate everybody. You know, anybody that's in my way, I just want to take them out. It's my revenge, really. You know, I just go through my mind like a machine gun. My body is the bullets and the audience is the target. And I see that rock and roll has just become so institutionalized that you've got people in monkey suits, you got college jocks, and people with money running the industry. And I'm trying to bring danger back into rock and roll. And there are no limits and no laws. And I'll break down every barrier put in front of me till the day I die.
But the applause, in case you're curious, is coming from a Gigi Allin fan club there in the first 2 rows. Notice the cool mustache on the third guy in on the first row. You get a shot of him?
Merle.
What's his name?
That's my brother Merle. He's my bass player for the Murder Junkies.
Oh, is it? All right. Great. I love that mustache. It's really a happening thing.
Makes you look like George Bush.
Right.
Well, That was just said by Reverend Bud Green. Bud Green, get it? Well, he has a band called Just Say Yes. Now, Bud likes to pass out marijuana joints to his audience during his performances. Now, you and Gigi share the same record label.
Yeah, we're on Everrat Records. And one thing I'm planning, our album's coming out in January, I'm planning to put a joint in each tape.
And a razor blade.
For his, I guess. You'll put a razor blade, I'll put a joint in mine.
Gigi, why do you want to put a razor blade?
See everybody commit suicide at the same time. Get rid of some of the population.
Did you have a troubled childhood? Should I have booked you for a child abuse case?
Not really. When I was growing up, I stole, I broke into cars, I broke into houses, I sold drugs, and then I found rock and roll. And that kind of balances me out, because I don't think if I'd have found rock and roll to balance out my life, I probably would have ended up being a serial killer or probably a mass murderer.
And you may still.
Yeah, I mean, I just got all this anger built up inside of me.
It's obvious.
You know, I'm sick of people. I just hate people. I walk down the street and I see a bunch of robots, if you will.
Gigi,
you know, people that look like your audience, you know, with their ties and their stupid little, you know, robotic lives. I don't want to deal with any of that at all.
Give us, we'll bleep it, as we have been bleeping everything you've been saying up until now, but give us an example of a lyric. Can you give us a lyric?
Well, we've got one called I Love Nothing. You know, I'm a cold nothing will hitch. I was a fetus-infected son of a people in possessions only slow me down. I'm on a burning bridge. You're in my way, you're going down.
Again, I point out for the record that Gigi Allen's fan. Oh, the name of Gigi's band, incidentally, is the Murder Junkies Band. The Murder Junkies Band. Could you show John right there the tattoo on your it looks hand done.
On what?
On your chest.
I got a load of them. Live fast, die.
Live fast, die, yeah. And on the other side?
Pretty much the philosophy of life.
And the other side,
I mean,
what's the other side say, Gigi?
Vomit toast. They're all over. But you'll see.
How old are you?
I came out naked, but they told me I put some clothes on.
Yeah, it's the CBS security didn't like. How old are you?
I'm 35, but I've been doing this since I was 18.
Since 18. Okay. Now, Bud, you're the mellow side of the Everrat label. You like to pass out the joints. I mean, what's your trip? You've been arrested for doing it, haven't you?
No, I've never been arrested because being a Reverend, Geraldo, I have the right to give my followers...
You're a Reverend, that's right.
Yeah, Reverend Bud Green. I have the right to give my followers the holy sacrament of God known as marijuana. And I'll quote the Bible here for people who don't believe it. Genesis 1:29, and God said, ye shall partake of every herb-bearing seed. That's what marijuana is.
I've been around a long time. I never heard that justification. Give us a lyric. Give us the band Just Say Yes. Give us a lyric.
Okay, we've got a tune called Just Say Yes, of course. Rich pig walks down Wall Street, laughing as he strolls. The poor man begs for pennies while the rich pig just says no. After making them richer, I'll stop to take a bong. I see them feasting on my soul until I'm dead and gone. So trying to show people, you know, marijuana wakes you up. That's what marijuana is for. It's like an enlightening type drug. It's not cocaine. It's not a drug.
Are you for cocaine?
Cocaine is the devil.
Crack?
Marijuana is God.
Heroin?
Heroin's the devil, too. Only marijuana and psychedelic drugs like mushrooms and peyote.
How old are you, Bud?
29.
Now, what does your mom say about your profession?
My parents are basically part of the middle class establishment type people, so of course they're against what I do.
Okay. Now, Stefan Stux?
Correct.
Is the owner of the Stux Gallery right here in New York, down in the Soho district. Now, the gallery displays what some are calling sacrilegious works of art, especially one piece by Andres Serrano. It is a painting here in our studio depicting, take a shot of it there, that red one. It's depicting a crucifix. Now, it looks submerged, but the liquid is what offends most people. Stefan, why don't you tell us the name of the painting and what exactly it's in?
Well, the picture represents a crucifix immersed in the artist's urine. So it generically has called it Christ. And of course, this has created a lot of controversy.
Wait, Stefan, you're Italian. Italian?
Actually, East European, but I'm American now.
Are you Catholic?
Not really.
Christian?
Well, not either of that.
Do you know any Christians?
Of course.
Don't you
well,
understand how
Andres
people would
Serrano-
be offended by a crucifix in urine?
Absolutely. I can very well understand that sort of thing. But the role of the artist and the art is actually to look at things in, how should I say, in a more complex fashion. If you look at the photographs of Andres Serrano, and that one in particular, it is very beautiful. It, in a sense, is as beautiful as any artwork that you might see adorning an altar.
But it is an insulting piece.
Well, that's exactly the point. It is ambiguous. It's controversial because in one sense it is very seductive. On another sense, it is very thought-provoking. For we are associating usually body excretions, let's say in this case urine, with, let's say, a pejorative or a negative
Yes, with Gigi
component.
Allen's act.
Right.
Right.
But on the other hand, you can look at it differently, as Andres has looked at it, as really an expression, or let's say, of toil and pain and suffering. So what Andres is trying to do is to bring back into the Christian imagery a sense of the body, and something that is close to us, which we have really gone quite far away
maybe if he
from.
had put it in sweat, people could understand the
Yes.
toil aspect, but urine, I think, is
Well,
really...
he could not collect enough of his own sweat,
Oh,
so
okay,
he
okay.
managed to collect enough of
If
his
he
own
had used,
urine.
a spritzer from a bottle of Evian water, I don't think anyone would have known. Kelly Cutrone, and Jim Bob, could you get that video again of the dancers with the flag? Kelly is the creator of that controversial piece we showed you a brief clip of, the piece called Love, Spit, Love. Kelly, where does the title come from, and what was the inspiration for the piece?
The inspiration was just sitting home and watching all the censorship that started happening from people like Tipper Gore and Jesse Helms and everything else that was going on in the country. And to me, I just started getting really frustrated. And love, spit, love, the spit kind of represents the exchange of bodily fluids that people have to think about while they're having sex in 1991.
We only had the clip, so it was 3 couples?
3 couples, 1 straight, 1 gay male, and 1 lesbian nude, installed as living sculpture in an art gallery.
And dancing in front of an American flag?
They weren't dancing. There was 1 American flag installed on a wall.
And they were just embracing?
And they were each roped off like sculpture that you would see in a museum. And they were kissing and caressing to love songs from the 1950s through the 1990s.
Robert Peters, we've got to take a break. I want a very brief statement from you right now, and we'll hear much more from you as the program progresses. Robert Peters is a member of the group called Morality in Media. Are you repulsed, sir, by what you've seen so far?
Well, I'm a lawyer, and I tend to look at it from a legal perspective. And just very briefly, the first group, I think there are public lewdness and indecency laws. There are...
Well, Gigi was convicted.
Drug laws that apply. Yeah. The argument that this is protected by the First Amendment Freedom of Religion Clause was just shot down by a recent Supreme Court
Bud
case.
Green.
The second group had to do with a public funding issue, and I think I'm safe in saying that if Mr. Frohnmeyer, who is the head of the NEA, made a practice of funding projects that depicted racist stereotypes or anti-Semitic stereotypes, or depicted women as enjoying rape or being slaves to men, or depicted all homosexuals as molesters of children, there'd be a real outcry. But, you know, Mr. Frohnmeyer thinks it's appropriate to fund art that offends, let's say, people who cherish the Judeo-Christian tradition. Now, the last comment in terms of the third group, I really am not overly familiar, but I would say that what I do somewhat remember her exhibit, I don't think it was publicly funded, and as long as she steers clear of obscenity laws, she has a constitutional right to show what I think is garbage.
Is it garbage? Or more specifically, is it art or is it smut? That's the focus of this edition of Geraldo. On the phone with us right now, Jeff Koons. He's an artist. His exhibit in New York Soho District prohibits minors. It is so explicit unless in the company of adults. It's erotic works. I think we have some photographs that star his wife. She is the Italian porn star and, I guess, former porn star, present politician. Ciccolina is her name. Jeff, I haven't seen the stuff. I've just heard of it, where I guess we'll see it with our audience. but as I understand it, it is very, very explicit. I saw one picture, you and your wife, I guess, or somebody, some other guy and your wife engaged in very explicit sex, including penetration in the sculptures. Is that art or is that pornography?
Geraldo, all of the works in the exhibition are of myself and my wife. I believe that it's very important in a time of AIDS to communicate that people can have total sexual freedom and liberation, but it's important to communicate that this freedom can be in a monogamous relationship.
So we're looking at photographs. I thought there were sculptures as well.
There's sculptures. I don't know if you have the photographs there in the studio. Some of them are hard sculptures where penetration is taking place. Some of them are of puppies and of flowers.
At least one of them has bodily fluids accompanying a sex act with your wife in a very compromising position. Aren't you embarrassed?
Absolutely not. If I can communicate to people that if they can embrace themselves and if they can have the true pornography of the world, which are things which segregate people from life, the idea the sophisticated segregates people from life, the idea the important segregates, taste segregates. This work tries to bring people in contact with life, to listen to life. Listen with your eyes, with your ears, and physically listen.
Are you surprised at the controversy the work has generated, or did you expect it? Indeed, did you plan on it?
I think great art has a responsibility to communicate. I never have tried to create anything shocking. I don't think the Michelangelo, when he created the 16th ceiling, which to me is about masturbation, in the highest sense, it communicates to people to be in contact with their bodies. You feel your muscles through the exaggeration if you look at the figures on the ceiling. And it wasn't to create controversy, but it was to communicate to people. And Jeff Koons is trying to do the same thing.
Jeff, thanks. Robert, your response?
Mr. Koons' exhibit differs from Michelangelo's because Michelangelo's sticks with mere nudity. And Mr. Koons' exhibit shows he and his wife engaging in vaginal sex and oral sex and in sodomy. And I can say honestly that if you went down to 42nd Street, you'd find the same types of depictions in the hardcore videos and the hardcore magazines. Now, I guess Mr. Koons would somehow argue that he has elevated what traditionally would be considered depictions of hardcore sexual conduct to art. I disagree. I think that Mr. Koons is making a wonderful name for himself, and I don't personally believe that his works are art. I think they're very pornographic.
The actors who are in Love Spit Love, two of them at least, are here. Would you stand and introduce yourself, please? Hi. And you're?
Natasha Sudek.
And you're?
Reed Hutchins.
Reed, did you get a lot of heat for being in the video? Or the play, I should say?
Actually, I think just about everyone was supportive. There was really no... There was controversy, but even my parents, relatives, people I met on the street would stop me, and they were very supportive of the exhibition.
Natasha, what kind of dance do you usually do?
Well, I'm an actress, not a dancer. Reed's the choreographer. But support-wise, it was wonderful. All of May and June, we couldn't walk a block in New York without someone coming up and thanking us for trying to make a difference in the gay community, et cetera, et cetera. So it was really nice.
The show was very unifying for all of New York, and it also opened up the artwork to a whole different group of people because of the attention, the controversy, I guess, that was brought toward the show. I mean, you had people of all different ages, from all different races, all different forms of sexuality coming into an art gallery that maybe before had felt alienated by the art world, and it was something that they could relate to. And part of the reason why we had the couples in the nude was there was, you know, Gigi said earlier about robots, you could not form an opinion based on how they were dressed or anything. They were just, you know, people are born
you certainly
nude.
couldn't.
Yeah, but you've got people here, too, that they're trying to create something that is uniform. My whole thing has got nothing to do with this, so let's get a performance group together and let's do, like, some performance art and we'll draw lines. My show is completely out of line. I don't care if people don't like what I do, and if you don't, I don't even care if you don't think it's art. I'm out to inflict pain on people as much as I'm in to inflict pain on myself. And that pain creates strength, power, and endurance, because if you put yourself through that tragedy every day, you could face that tragedy when it hits you.
Todd,
I'm
you're
not
an
out to
NYU
do any
student?
uniform Oh.
You booked Gigi's band in your school?
Yeah, well, I'm doing a documentary film on Gigi through NYU Film School, and I wanted to get a spoken word type performance from Gigi, so I booked it through school, and we had some problems there.
But what happened? What did Gigi do, first of all?
He came out on stage naked, which was what they had a problem with right away, and...
Oh, wow, shit.
Well, I mean, and went around, collected money from the crowd, and basically everybody in the audience was scared, and in last about 3 minutes, and everybody ran out and threw a chair, and, I mean...
People come because they want to see something very dangerous, and they're going to get it. There's no fake blood. There's no props like most of the bands you'll see today on major labels. You'll see real blood. You'll see real broken bones, and that's beautiful. That's art. When people are leaving my shows and they're in pain, that is beautiful.
I got it. Real blood and real broken bones, man. That's art.
That's art.
That's
All right.
Right back.
What the hell do you know?
Enemies with your ex. Is breaking up really hard to do? That's the question. Next, Geraldo. Oh, Gigi has revealed his banged-up palate there. Yes, sir.
Geraldo, I just want to make a comment. When I woke up this morning, I was still in America. I think this is a great country, and I think we should be free to explicitly act on any sort of art form that we wanted to, and we should just basically be able to do what we have to do. And
you think that you should be, I mean, Gigi should be permitted to throw excrement in your face if you're in his concert?
If it's part of it, you know, I don't have to perform. I don't have to. I don't have to go there and be part of it.
As we run the Todd's video, Robert, what do you think about the First Amendment question when it comes to someone like Gigi?
Well, historically,
here's the video running, by the way.
Historically, the First Amendment has never been thought of as protecting every form of expression. And two forms that are not protected are obscenity and child pornography. Within limits, if these gentlemen and ladies steer clear of those legal limits, they have a right to exhibit their materials, not necessarily on a street corner, but certainly in a private museum, for example.
That was Gigi getting thrown out of NYU. Yes?
I wanted to ask Gigi if is that your street clothes or do you perform in them clothes?
My street clothes. I mean, I do the same things on stage as I do off. Let me make that perfectly clear.
Do you have a roommate? You must be.
You will never see me out of this dog collar, ever.
See, it seems like you hate the world. Do you hate the world?
Yeah, and I hate you too.
Robert, I wonder, or let me ask Betty or Patty in the front row, also from Morality and Media. Do people like Gigi who are so extreme, do they make the case easy, the case for censorship easy?
Well, personally, somebody like Gigi, I think, is hardly worth commenting on. But in general, historically...
Well, look at you for... That's press.
Well, you know,
all right, let's keep, Gigi, keep it clean here.
We have a person who is so full of anger and misery that he's about to explode. Historically,
but isn't that what rock and roll is all about? It's for the real rebellious people and the real underground. It's not for people like you. Rock and roll has nothing to do with you or your life. It's for the people like me and the people who are really angry, the real outcasts. It's not for people who wear ties and make money off it. It's for people who live it 24 hours a day.
Okay, Gigi, stifle it.
Gigi, relax.
Yes, go ahead, Patty.
You're really upset.
Well, you're so ignorant on what you're saying.
Oh, come on, stop it. No names,
how do you know
okay?
I'm ignorant? You don't let me say anything, and
Well,
you're representing the First Amendment.
Anyway.
Historically, real art has uplifted and inspired and appeals to an aesthetic interest, and pornography appeals to a prurient interest. Here we have some perfect examples of people who think they're very sophisticated, laughing all the way to the bank by exploiting themselves and pushing pornography on the public.
You're talking about Stefan Stux and the urine, the Christ?
Well, I mean, to say that people can relate to this stuff is like saying people can relate to going to the bathroom. What's the point?
Pants or something?
Here's a point.
I don't even know what a bank is.
And it's not an artist's job to please, to offend, to do anything to affect. An artist simply represents and reflects upon society as it is. There's murder in society, there's AIDS in society, there's homosexuality in society. Maybe not in the world that you live in, but in the real world, that's where it is. And these people are simply chronicling it.
If I may interrupt quickly, just as newspaper and the media have to live within the law, so do artists. And there is also the issue of public funding. What might be permissible to show is not necessarily...
I have a question for Gigi.
All right. Just want to institutionalize it so that they can keep it under control.
If you hate the world, if you hate everybody, do you hate your brother?
Sometimes, yeah. I beat the out of him occasionally.
Yes, you.
Gigi, would you like your band to be #1 one day?
We never will be because of people like this.
I'd like to ask Todd, the filmmaker from NYU, where his documentary is going to be shown and how much trouble did he get in from NYU for bringing Gigi?
You get suspended, Todd?
No, I had some trouble with the dean where they wrote some letters, maybe possibly not allowing it to be finished through NYU. But as of now, it's on hold. It's like in deliberation, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think you're totally off the wall, putting something like that in an art gallery and calling it art.
Hey, I've stuck those up before.
Alex, you know, what's the craziest...
Gigi, one more crack, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave, buddy. Just keep yourself in control.
What's the craziest thing you ever done on stage, Gigi?
Well, don't ask him that. You just encourage him.
Well, I'll tell you, I can keep that. I'll tell you, I don't think it's crazy. I don't think what I do is outrageous.
The issue remains is that censorship, why am I still being censored on CBS? Essentially, I didn't put those black tabs on my 1976 body, but somebody did, and I find that extremely offensive that while we're talking about an important, relevant issue, I've been censored. I haven't been censored as brutally as I have been here right now, and I'm sitting through all this nonsense by people involved with media. This supposedly is not a work about media, but about one objecting to people using each other in society, how women have always been used as objects, as porn stars. By my taking control of my own body, it's a different issue than Jeff Koons using his wife. That's real safe sex in a society that is afraid. It's a very easy work of art.
There are, as you know, in the broadcast networks, standards and practices, and so far in this country, although it's different in Europe, for example, frontal nudity, full frontal nudity is not allowed. I mean, I give you permission to take the things off your breasts if you want to, but not your bottom. All right, she's going to go and... you want to show your breasts on TV? No, I don't think so, right?
Yeah.
If I might say, it's not so clear that legally the lady can do what she's doing on the broadcast media. Clearly, pictures like that could be seen in very similar in a Playboy magazine. Right. People are certainly, those who want to purchase that type of magazine can do so. But to transmit this type of what might be called softcore pornography in every living room, I find that very offensive, and I would hope that someday
I don't think you know enough about art to make anything credible.
Let's take a break. I'll let all the artists reveal their works in a moment. Or is it smart? And that's our focus. Yes.
When the morale goes down and everything is so sexy in the country, that brings on criminals and takes out the self-respect from each person and the respect for others.
So you believe that explicit art leads to sex crimes and things of that nature? Well, a lot of people do, and a lot of people do not. Let me go to Hannah. I want to go to Jim. Jim, this is your work. Is this the part of the piece that you painted for the John Wayne Airport in Orange County?
Actually, Geraldo, neither one of these paintings is that. The one on the left, they're called the Icarus figure, relates to that work. But looking at it now and sitting here, it seems really absurd that these two paintings as traditional... Listen, I'm the caveman here. I paint with oil paint. I do paintings that deal with the figure because that's what I'm most interested in, and I deal with them in a fairly classical way.
I mean, wouldn't most people agree that this is pretty classical art? I mean, that's just because the people happen to have no clothes on. Now, Robert, you couldn't possibly object to this.
I don't. It's not my cup of tea, but I certainly have no objection to it on a legal basis.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Patty, what do you think?
No objection. Again, real art uplifts, and it shows the beauty of the human form, which I believe this does, as opposed to some of the other, what I would consider to be trash on the wall.
I have a question. Who gave you the definition of what real art is?
I said historically, so that is...
There is no definition of real art, and what was offensive in 1600, in that day and age, now today is considered classical.
But Kelly, what about Jim Koontz's painting or sculptures in which he's engaged in intercourse or oral sex with his wife, and it's Is that art?
I mean, Jeff did it. It's in a gallery. He's an artist. He says it's art. It's art. However, I also think that as an artist as popular as Jeff, historically, 50 years from now, that will be kind of a great time capsule of the artist in his life.
That's an interesting point. Stefan, how much does Kunst sell his work for?
He's selling his works in substantial numbers, I should say.
How many figures? 5, 6 figures?
Well, I would say 5 figures easily, sometimes low 6 figures.
So into the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, I'd say
Indeed.
that some art critics state that his work could be, in terms of the quality of it, you could get something similar in a bric-a-brac store for $20 that people pay $200,000 for. So people do differ as to the quality of Mr. Kunst's work.
My name is Gino Rodriguez, and I'm the director of the Alternative Museum. I'm also an artist. Geraldo, one of the things I want to say before I talk about the artworks on the wall is that I find an imbalance here in this presentation. I feel...
Don't criticize the show. I hate when my guests start becoming producers. Just you talk to the art, okay?
I'm going to talk to the fact that there are no artists being represented out here, out on that stage, talking about the fact that there are artists who use nudity, not as nudity, but as a form of social change. And I could start with Judith...
Put it in the context of the work. Go ahead.
You have Shelley Bachman's work here. It's called Caught. It's from the Attraction Repulsion series, and it deals with the way women are manipulated in society. From Barbie doll to little girls to big girls, women are used and manipulated. This artist is not using the work for sexual reasons, nor is it for pornographic reasons or whatever other kind of...
Step aside, let the audience vote, sort of. I think I agree with him on this piece. Okay.
You have, and I'm going to go briefly through these, you have Judith Schechter's work, which deals with rape. This is an artist who's trying to bring to the attention to an elite group of an encoded few people in the art world, the fact that rape is occurring all the time.
The artist's name again?
Judith Schechter.
Your feelings? Hold it. Your feelings? I agree. Art. You may not like it, but it's not pornography. Okay. Anna, we've already discussed. Okay.
And you have Robin Michaels, who talks about the way women are used daily in terms of sexual jokes amongst men and women. And how that affects the lives of women. Now, she has a joke here. What is a Chinese girl's favorite holiday? Erection Day. Okay, this is a joke that people use all the time, but it is offensive to Asian Americans, and in the same way it is offensive to all people of color, to all women, all gay people. It is not about the sexual joke. It is about artists who are out there struggling to make a change in the world, as opposed to the circus that I see up on the stage. I don't feel that that is art. I don't feel that these are artists, and I feel that this kind of...
Wait. So you're saying that Gigi and Bud, for instance, are not artists?
For me. I cannot be the arbitrator for other people.
Do you see the danger, Gino? Now you've become the arbiter. You say this is art, that's not art.
And that is my job as a museum director, and that is my job as an artist.
Kelly, does he have the right?
Of my public, and to be conscientious of the artist, and to be conscientious of my own self.
Well, all right,
I think,
full stop.
The beautiful thing is that today, you're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to mine. And what scares me as an American, and a taxpayer in a very high bracket, I might add, is that 5 years down the road, we might not be able to have an opinion, because we might not be able to go and see these shows. And that's the scary part for me.
Well, I think that's a little bit ridiculous, but one point I'd like to make...
Has television sets in Washington
somebody,
banning the Smurfs.
I think
mean,
society has to...
there's a real problem.
Well,
Robert, hurry up, gotta take a break.
Somebody has to determine what art is.
Did you really ban the Smurfs?
No.
Violent.
Morality in the media. If somebody...
No, that's wrong. Wrong.
I'm very confused. Arlene, we'll talk.
Excuse me, if somebody goes up to 42nd Street and cuts out a picture from one of the hardcore pornographic magazines and takes it to a art gallery and calls it art, I disagree with the young lady that makes it art. And that is what she said. That to me is ridiculous. There have to be some standards by which society...
It may be bad art, but it's art. I'll be right back. Thank you.
Let's see.
From Morality and Media. Let's get back to, I guess, what's at the heart of the discussion here, Betty. Don't you see the danger if a group like your own, for example, Morality and Media, were to be the arbiters of art or smut? If you were to say, We believe that this is art, even though we don't like it. We believe, however, if you go one step further, it's no longer art and therefore should be banned. Don't you see that that's very, very subjective? And, you know, I forget all those cliches about one man's this is another man's that, but you get the point.
Well, I think obscenity is illegal across the board, and artists are not immune to that. And it's not a subjective definition, really. There's a legal definition of it. And if it were taken into court, it would be up to a jury.
Do you know a legal definition that you'd like to share with us?
Well, it has to appeal to the prurient interest, according to contemporary community standards, which is why these examples over there are not pornographic.
They're not.
There's an aesthetic quality to them. They do not appeal to the prurient interest. Number two, it has to be...
How about Mapplethorpe's photos, the ones that took him to court on a criminal charge in Cincinnati?
In my opinion, I think they're hardcore pornographic photos.
There was no penetration in those photos.
Well, there doesn't have to be. It could, you know, if it appeals to the prurient interest, if it has depictions of patently offensive sexual activities.
And anything involving a child with her genitalia visible. And my question regarding those photographs has always been, who gave permission for that child's genitals to have been photographed? And
although I saw Jock Sturgis's photos, nude photos of children, that were absolutely beautiful photographs. They tried to get a federal indictment against this guy out on the West Coast. The grand jury refused to indict. And I looked at them, and I got really worried. I have to share that with you.
That nobody ever said that all of Jock Sturgis's depictions of nude kids constituted child pornography. There was a question as to whether some of them did, and a very respectable photo processing company, which processes 1 million photographs a year, had never turned any photographs over to the law enforcement authorities, and they dealt with some of Sturgis's work, but they felt that perhaps Mr. Sturgis crossed the board.
I interviewed him, and he has been cleared. Now, Abe, what happened when you...
I would disagree that that grand jury indictment has that much significance.
The grand jury failure to indict.
Well, if they had, you know, if the prosecution had been initiated in another jurisdiction, I think the results could have been very different.
Abe, what happened to you when you put that statue, the one that we opened the program with the 3 nudes, in front of your hotel? Didn't you lose a couple of conventions?
Well, let me answer in general to your question of censorship. I believe in a different censorship. I'm in this country because of the Constitution that gives individual freedom. And every person has individual censorship. If he doesn't like something, he doesn't have to look at it. And no court has to tell us what we should look and what we should see.
They have to look at your statue. It's right on 7th Avenue.
They don't have to. They can pass by.
They go like this? Yeah.
They don't like, they go further. I don't care which one.
Didn't
and
you
how
lose what conventions? You lost 2 conventions.
2 conventions.
What were
the
they?
Methodist and the Seventh-day Adventist. That's how they felt. That's their privilege.
You were willing to sacrifice the business?
Yes.
To keep the statue?
Because so many more are willing to look at it, and we got 10 times more business from it than before. For instance, the bar next door, the Penn Bar, was doing $35,000 a week business before the statue came there. When the statue came, we doubled to $80,000 a year business, which shows, in fact, that
sex pays.
There's only one thing that I do.
I got to take a break.
There's one thing that I do object.
Hurry, quick.
To Stefan's doing Christ in this, because I believe Stefan is Jewish, and he should not show something that is objective to other people.
Bravo.
Well, first of all, okay, let me say something to that. I'm a gallerist, and I look at artwork. When I first showed the work of Andres Serrano, which was indeed very controversial.
Andres Serrano is the artist, is that?
The artist, of course, and I have to respect his freedom, regardless of what my views are.
Let him show his freedom. That's not your freedom.
The point to it is that...
Speak Up America, we want to hear your comments and show ideas. Give us a call at 1-900-SPEAK-UP. Let us know what you're thinking. We'll record your message to play in a future broadcast. We may even call you to be a guest on a show. So call 1-900-SPEAK-UP. Don't forget, the call costs $1. We'll be right back. Our owner was deeply offended by what Abe Hirschfeld said. I'll give you 30 seconds to respond, Steph.
Dear Mr. Hirschfeld, I'm very surprised of you. As a fellow Jew, I came to this country because I escaped narrowly the gas chambers, the crematoriums of Hitler and of his fascism.
All right, gentlemen, we're not going to get off the point here, are we? What's the point?
And that of the communists, too. What they have done is that they have suppressed the arts in the first place, whether it's religious or whether it was gay or anything like that.
Two wrongs don't make one right.
No, and these artists are your guardians or your safety. If you don't let them push the limits of your safety, you will be the next one.
I give all the limits. The individual limit is unlimited.
Just very quickly, there's something called the Weimar decadence.
You're second, bud. You're second. Go ahead, quick.
There's something called in history what is often termed Weimar decadence, which took place before Germany came, before Hitler came into being.
Okay, Reverend Bud Green. Yes, Bud.
This is the new Hitler of the 90s. Stand up here, Hitler. George Bush is the new Hitler of the 90s. And hold on a second, I'm going to show people how I worship the Lord.
No, don't.
I want to thank the Lord for giving me the holy herb.
That's it. So you guys can't control yourself. Get out of here.
Have a seat, George.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for Gigi. I would like to know, if you dislike the world so much, what is your opinion of yourself?
Well,
what's your opinion of yourself, Gigi?
I feel very highly of myself. I'm God, Jesus Christ, and Satan all in one. There is no higher power than Gigi Allen.
I apologize for some of my guests. We'll take a break.
Hotel accommodations provided by Ramada Hotel at Madison Square Garden. The best location in Midtown Manhattan, opposite Penn Station, steps from Macy's, A&S Plaza, and the Javits Convention Center. A promotional fee has been provided by...
In movies before they ever see a naked breast.
Right. That's a good point. I want to go, Robert, and this, Robert, has to be your last statement. Morality in media does not seem to be nearly as interested, with all due respect to the organization, in the violence we see on television or on film as it is in sexual depictions. Why not?
Well, the primary reason is there aren't many court decisions that pertain to violence. There is a long history of constitutional decisions that pertain to the sexually explicit. And
How do you feel when people get blown up and mass murders?
Well, personally, I think it's terrible, but then a lot of these people turn it on, and if they didn't, there wouldn't be any. But
wait a second, using that argument, you'd have the sex appeal.
Oh, no, well, I personally would...
The X-rated channels are the highest rated on cable.
Well, I do think there are some distinctions between sex and violence, because I don't think most people get turned on by violence. I think most people do get excited about sex.
Gigi certainly does. Now, Gino, do you think that the art world has to be self-policing?
Well, I think all of us have to be self-policing. I think, well, I don't like the word self-policing. I think we all have to be responsible for the consequences of our action. I think, for example, that to allow artists to speak on behalf of their work is very good. But I think we have to be responsible for what artists we choose to speak about what work. And that's where we fail. We don't put up the artists that are dealing with the social change. We put up the circus. That we have to be responsible, Geraldo, you and I.
Well, you know, I think Gino and Robert are actually very close in there. Bye. See you next time.